Realignment's coming, it's really coming, it's in the air, hear it humming.
Gonna be great, gonna be grand, you need to vote and take a stand. It's very, very near.
Change happens next year.
Hi, this is the Observationist here, and it is September 10th, 2025. And I want to talk about realignment. A realignment is coming, and it's coming next year, and it's going to be severe. Now, let's talk about what is realignment. What does that really mean? Well, realignments, political realignments in the United States occur about every 30, 40, 50 years. The last realignment was in the 1980s, and what happened there is that the Southern Dixiecrats, Southern Democrats, decided to switch parties and become Republicans, and that's when the Southern states, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and Oklahoma, they all went from being solid blue to being solid red. Meanwhile, the northeastern states of the New England states, they went from being solid red because they were run by the what we call the Henry Cabot Lodge Republicans at the time, and but they switched to voting Democrat. Now, if you look at New England, New England is almost a solid block of Democrat senators and governors, a few exceptions. But the rest of the country more or less stayed the same. There wasn't a lot of shift. So that was more of a regional realignment. Then what happened is the major realignment that occurred historically was 1930-32. That realignment, that was earth-shattering. This is what I'm showing here is from Wikipedia, 1932 elections, and what happened. Well, FDR, as you see here, took the country, only a few states, and the Republicans got four of the six New England states. So, of all the area of the country, that was the most Republican at the time. Anyway, but you look at the rest of it, the Democrats went from 47 seats. Now, there was only 48 states at that time, so there was 96 Senate seats. So 48 was half. And so the Democrats were just under that. They had 47, and they went from 47 to 59. So they went from being barely out of power in the Senate to having a dominant position. Meanwhile, on the House side, you can see how I talked about how this area here was all solid Democrat, blue Democrat. Well, see how that is? It's a solid blue from coast to coast. And like I said, this shifted in the 1980s. In the 1980s, this became solid red. But anyway, this realignment that occurred in 1932, and we call it a realignment because it had staying power, which wasn't just really a momentary shift. It wasn't just simply FDR having a good campaign. This transcended FDR, and it really set progressivism as the norm for the country. Even the Republicans were progressive for up until the time of Reagan, and so this realignment was powerful and it had long-lasting effect. And I think we're going to be undergoing that again. In next year. We're going to be talking, and we're going to be going over why that's the case. One of it is changes of attitudes. And nothing like misery can help people change their attitude a little bit. Here's a nice headline I thought was kind of interesting. Arkansas farmers are begging for a handout thanks to Trump tariffs. Yeah, nothing like misery and having and being up against it to want some help. And the farmers, they basically didn't know how good they had it. They didn't know how good they had, and they didn't know why they had it so good for 50 years or more. And they had it because of the socialist, actually progressive programs that the Democrats put in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. Um, let me show you. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let me pull this to the side a little bit. Okay. These are the farm programs created between 1932 to 2025. Now, I have them listed here as Republican programs and Democrat programs. Now, this is the thing that really surprised me. When I was doing this research, I did not know I was going to find this. I figured, farmers always vote Republican. The farmers, the Republicans must be doing something for them. Why would farmers vote for them decade after decade if the Republicans aren't giving them what they need? No, I knew my history a little bit, so I knew that these programs were started by the Democrats in the 1930s and under FDR. And here we show them, 1933, 33, 33. The first one's the Agricultural Adjustment Act, where farmers were paid to not produce, which is kind of a cool thing. And then the Commodity Credit Corporation. Now, you got to remember, farming is a very high-risk business, and banks don't like risk. And so it was very hard for a farmer who can't predict the weather, can't predict rain and drought and wind and all other kinds of conditions, to get loans. And so the Commodity Credit Corporation was set up where there would be government-backed loans. That was set up by the Democrats to help farmers. This was made a little stronger than the Farmer Credit Corporation. That supported cooperatives. If you go along across the country, you see farming cooperatives everywhere. Well, how'd they start? It was the Democrats that supported them. Then the other thing that was then the federal crop insurance. Again, natural disasters happen to farmers all the time. That's one thing that their product that they create is not inside a sheltered building like something being made in a factory. Their stuff is out there in the open, growing in the sunshine and the rain. And sometimes it's wonderful, and other times not so much. But the Democrats came out with the food stamp program. Now, the food stamp program was created for the farmers. That was created so that farmers would have a market for their produce. Because every time a person uses a food stamp to go buy a loaf of bread or a carton of eggs, he's getting that stuff from a farmer somewhere. But what really surprised me, so I knew that was going on. What surprised me though is that as I went through the years, all of the programs were Democrat. So since all these farm programs were started by Democrats, why did the farmers support the Republicans? Well, I just figured the Republicans are just very good at lying. They took credit for a lot of the Democrat actions. The only one that crossed the line was the Immigration Reform Act of 1986, and that technically is not a farm program. It's Immigration Reform and Control Act. I put it here though because this act was created for farmers. What it did is it made migrant workers illegal. We had migrant workers for a century before that, all the way up 1880s, 1870s. We had migrant workers coming up from Mexico, going into Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas. We had migrant workers a long time. But we didn't have illegal migrant workers until this law. And this law is the one that really did it. Because this law, by making the migrant workers illegal, no longer will we have a Cesar Chavez type situation where we had farm workers going on strike to get better wages. Nope. They're illegal, so therefore they get no protections. They even get paid below minimum wage. There's no worker safety programs. There's nothing, and this was done to benefit farmers. Of course, the farmers, not understanding history, not knowing history, not remembering a damn thing, they turn against the immigrant workers that are making them money. And Trump came along, and he just plugged right into that anger, plugged right into that deceit, and he turned it on him. And now he's actually doing it like an idiot. And so the market workers are going away, and now there's going to be like one article I read estimated like 30% of all farmers in the United States are going to go bankrupt in the next year. That is Depression era type stuff. Okay, let's move on. Okay. If you look at this is what's going on in terms of the GDP. The GDP is beginning to crash. This was actually last winter, so it was already going down. And with Trump's tariffs and his trade wars, and with the global markets, farm markets now shut off to us, now we're not only not exporting to Canada, now we're not exporting our farm produce to Canada. And we're not exporting our farm produce to Europe. And so, Trump has made the United States products now persona non grata anywhere in the world. And now countries only buy our stuff if they really, really want it. They really don't want to deal with us anymore. So now we're going to be seeing everything collapsing. The manufacturing, which was supposed to go up because of tariff policies, is collapsing. It's going down, and there's reasons for that. There's instead of bringing manufacturing in the United States, we have Toyota, Subaru, Ford, Chrysler, John Deere, J.I. Case, and other manufacturing companies in the United States moving their stuff out of the United States. Why are they doing that? Very simple. Supply chains are global. And if you build a wall around the United States, it's just a lot easier to take the manufacturing plant in Detroit or in Chattanooga or in Dallas and move it to Mexico or move it to Canada than it is to try and bring in all of the 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 suppliers into the United States. That's the hard part. So it's much easier just to take the manufacturing out. And that's what they're doing. And that's going to impact not only the workers, but that's going to impact all the people that service those workers, the restaurants, the gas stations, the car dealerships. It's not going to be good. And the misery is going to get worse next year because Trump, now he's like a child, he's a stupid child. He does not learn, he cannot learn. He doesn't have a concept of what's going on. He doesn't understand trade, he doesn't understand finance, he doesn't understand manufacturing. And going to, by the way he talks to people, by people I mean he talks to the world leaders like Carney up in Canada, or the leaders of the European nations and the EU and NATO nations, how he talks to them in such an insulting, dismissive, assumptive manner. It's no reason that places like Portugal and Switzerland and Spain have opted out of the F-35 contracts. Canada's opting out of the F-35 contract. And a lot of other countries in Europe are looking at that. And that the idea of all these countries being our market for our military industrial complex, that's going to become a thing of the past. So companies like Lockheed, Raytheon, Boeing, Grumman, they're going to be hurt badly by Trump's policies because these changes, they are long-term changes. They're not something that could be turned back, next year. No, once they make these changes, once they decide not to buy the F-35, that means they're buying other planes. That commits them to these other planes for a generation, for 20, 30 years. And then plus it just gets habit forming. Now they'll buy other arms from other countries just because they're not in the habit of buying them from the United States. Up until now, if they wanted an anti-missile system, they bought the Patriot. That was the standard. They didn't have to really give it a lot of thought. It's just that's what people would do. Well, now guess what? The Patriot's a short-termer. That's going to be a short-term solution. The other countries of Europe are going to be looking for other solutions, and the Patriot, within 5 to 10 years, will no longer be used in Europe. Thanks a lot, Trump. Anyway, getting back to the realignment. This realignment is, like I said, it is really serious. I've done a video, and I'm going to be doing it again. I'll be doing it on a periodic basis of my projection for the coming Congress, namely the Senate. Really, I'm not going to be doing the House. There's just too many seats there for me to handle. But the Senate I could do, and right now I have the Senate projected to go. I have projected to go 55 seats to the Democrats. I project not only North Carolina and Georgia going Democrat. I also have Maine going Democrat, Iowa going Democrat, and of course Ohio going Democrat. Which now most analysts, most people who are projecting that show that as being Republican. I don't. I think that's going to go Democrat easily next year. But I think a lot of other states that people are assuming are going to be red next year are going to be borderline. I think Nebraska and Kansas are toss-ups, absolute toss-ups. I think Iowa's a given. I think that's a given. I think Kentucky actually is most likely a Democrat. Mitch McConnell is gone, and it's an open seat, and they're getting hammered by the Canadians. They're having distilleries going bankrupt all over the place because Canada is no longer buying their booze. Tennessee, the home of Jack Daniels, they're having similar problems. Jack Daniels not going to be going bankrupt. They're a bit too big for that, but they're going to be seriously hurt. So Tennessee is a possibility. But Kentucky, I think I think there's a, right now I would give that a lean Democrat in terms of where I think it's going to be next year. Not lean Democrat right now, but after the misery that's going to be coming in the next year, I think we're going to be seeing the whole country tilt very severely to the Democrats. Even now, I had Texas as going red, to be honest, up until the new guy. What's his name? Tellerico? I don't have his name right. But I saw him talking, and I think he's going to be a real strong candidate, much better than Beto O'Rourke was. And I think I think there's a good chance that Texas is going to have a Democrat senator. I know that everyone has Florida inked in as red. Ashley Moody's going to be an easy win. I don't think so. One, she's too tied to Trump. She's tied very strongly to Trump. She's not independent of him at all. And Florida's getting hit hugely, not only by the farm issues that other states are being hit by, but the tourism issue. Canadians are not coming down there except to sell their condos. So the snowbird visitation they get every winter, that's not going to happen. The Europeans, they're not coming because of the way people are being treated by immigration just to enter the country for a holiday. They're being fingerprinted. They're being detained. They've even had a couple people die because of the way they were treated by immigration. Europeans have a problem with that. And then on top of all that, Trump puts the $250 per person visa fee on everyone. That means a family of four coming from France to go to Disney World got to pay an additional $1,000 just for the privilege coming into the country to go to Disney World. Uh, that's just that alone would have a huge impact. With all these other things happening, and by the way, all these countries in Europe now have travel advisories to telling their citizens, don't go to the United States. Whatever you do, don't go to the United States. Go to South Africa, go to India, go to the Philippines, go to China, but don't come to the United States. That's not good. That is not good. I don't know what Trump's going to do, but he never apologizes. He never admits he's wrong, and he just doubles down on things. So I do not expect any changes. A few months ago, I was thinking that there might be some changes. I think that he would do some things, and then he would roll them back. But he's not rolling back ice. He's doing those raids. By the way, that raid down in Hyundai in Georgia, that's going to have really huge impact. That was a raid not on a company that is operational. That was on the building of a plant. Those workers that were there from Korea, the 300 workers, they were there temporarily just to help with the construction and with the training of people who are going to be, the Americans who are going to be manning the plant. Well, those guys have been sent back to Korea. Who's going to train the workers? Plus, with the Trump's tariffs, the economic foundation and justifiability of that plant is probably gone south. And so therefore, this is probably a good excuse, if not a reason, a good excuse for Hyundai LG to basically stop building that plant and to cancel it. Meanwhile, there's like 100 other plants and factories that are under expansion or under construction in the United States, from Toyota, Subaru, etc., and so many other foreign companies. And the way those workers were treated, how are they going to work with an American site for one of their plants? When their workers don't want to come to the plant, they have to attend a meeting in Chattanooga or in Dallas or Little Rock, and they can't. And why can't they? It's because they're afraid of how they're going to be treated by immigration. Trump says he expects and wants this, to work with companies from other countries and work with other countries. He does not. His policies don't communicate that, not in any way, shape, or form. And so we're going to see a collapse of investment in the United States. And that would mean that's going to have a huge impact on our GDP next year. So GDP next year is going negative. And with that negativity, we're going to be having a realignment. People across the country are going to get PO'd. And they're going to be blaming him, but not just him. They're going to be blaming all the Republicans that refuse to put any limits or controls or any guardrails on this guy. They've supported him in everything. Remember, the tariffs, that's not a presidential power. That's a congressional power, senatorial power. And he can only have these his tariffs, because the Republican Senate is allowing him to do it. And so I would expect the American people that irritated with it for right or wrong. There's going to be Realignments Coming. I hope you enjoy it. I did the lyrics, copyrighted, and I was rather. I think it turned out rather well. But give me your like and subscribe. And with that, I will sign off. I'm going to be having other videos coming up addressing the progressivism and its development. I feel that a lot of people don't really understand what progressivism is and how it started and how really, truly American it is. Again, thank you very much.
Realignment's coming, it's really coming. It's in the air, hear it humming.
Gonna be great, gonna be grand. You need to vote and take a stand. It's very, very near.
Change happens next year. Realignment's coming, it's really coming. Old ways are fading, hear them dying. New voices rising, can't be denied. Democracy's moving, choose a side. The tide is turned, old ways to be burned. Realignment's coming, it's really coming. Many are suffering in a real plight. Please help them see the light is not just you that must take a stand. Your friends and relatives could lend a hand. Realignment's coming, it's really coming. Trump, he lied, he really cheated. Farmers bankrupt, almost defeated. Markets dead and workers gone. Farmers lost, searching for the dawn. Lord, help them find their